Commander Thrace stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the small planet rotate on the holographic display. Nova Terrace looked peaceful from this distance. Blue oceans, green forests, a few scattered buildings. His mandibles clicked together in satisfaction. "Status report," he commanded. His tactical officer, a younger Vexian named Krell, studied his console. "Commander, our sensors confirm the intelligence data. 1 training facility. 47 human cadets. No military ships within 3 systems. Their defensive grid is completely offline." Thrace felt his confidence grow. The Vexian Dominion had spent months planning their invasion of human space. But the High Council wanted proof. They wanted to see how humans would react under real pressure. This remote colony was perfect. Young students, far from help, with no real weapons or defenses. It would be over quickly. "How long until we can attack?" Thrace asked. "We drop from hyperspace in exactly 1 hour, Commander," Krell replied. "The humans have no idea we are here. Our cloaking technology is working perfectly." Thrace walked closer to the holographic display. He zoomed in on the main building of the training facility. It was small, simple. Nothing impressive. Around it, he could see the cadets scattered across the wilderness. They were doing some kind of exercise, hiking through the forests and mountains. They looked so unprepared. "These are children," Thrace said to his officers. "When we arrive, they will panic. They will try to call for help, but no help will come. This victory will show all of human space that they cannot stop us." The other Vexians on the bridge made sounds of agreement. They had all heard stories about humans. The species had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. They were new, primitive in many ways. Their technology was adequate but nothing special. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were simple. What made humans slightly interesting was their home world. Earth was what the galaxy called a death world. High gravity, dangerous weather, aggressive predators. Most species avoided such planets. But humans had evolved there, which meant they were tougher than average. Stronger, more resilient. But toughness would not save them today. Thrace had 12 warships. The cadets had nothing. Down on Nova Terrace, cadet instructor Maya Flores was watching her students climb a steep mountain trail. She stood near the base camp, a temporary shelter they had set up for the week-long wilderness training. Her tablet showed the locations of all 47 cadets, spread out across 100 kilometers. Maya was 32 years old and had been teaching at the academy for 5 years. Before that, she had served in the Human Defense Forces for 8 years. She knew combat. She knew pressure. But this assignment was supposed to be easy, peaceful. Teaching young people how to survive in difficult environments. Her tablet suddenly flashed red. Maya's heart jumped. She looked at the screen. An automated defense warning. Incoming threat detected. Estimated arrival time, 60 minutes. "No," she whispered. She tapped the screen, bringing up more details. Unknown ships. Multiple contacts. Coming out of hyperspace directly above the planet. The computer estimated at least 10 vessels, possibly more. Maya felt ice run through her veins. This was not a drill. This was real. She immediately opened the communication channel to all cadets. "All students, this is Instructor Flores. Stop what you are doing and listen carefully. We have an emergency. Unknown hostile ships will arrive in 1 hour. Return to base camp immediately. Move fast." Responses started coming in. Confused voices. Worried questions. Maya cut them off. "No questions right now. Just move. Flores out." She switched channels and contacted the facility's main operations center. A young technician named Alan appeared on her screen. "Alan, tell me you saw the warning," Maya said. "Yes, ma'am. I'm looking at it now. Commander, this is bad. Our defensive grid has been offline for maintenance. Standard procedure says we need at least 6 hours to bring it back online. We have 1 hour." Maya felt the weight of the situation crushing down on her. 6 hours. They needed 6 hours. But they had 1. "Can we call for help?" she asked. Alan shook his head. "The nearest military base is 4 days away at maximum speed. Even if we send a distress signal right now, no one will get here in time." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about the 47 young people under her command. Students. Most of them were 18 or 19 years old. They had joined the academy because they wanted to serve, wanted to protect humanity. But they were not soldiers yet. They were still learning. But they were human. And humans did not give up. Maya opened her eyes. "Alan, start bringing the defensive systems online. Do whatever you can. Even if it is not complete, get something working." "Yes, ma'am, but..." "No buts. Just do it. I am bringing the cadets back. We are going to make this work. She switched back to the cadet channel. The first students were already running back toward base camp. She could see them on her tablet moving fast through the forest. Maya started walking toward the equipment storage building. Her mind was racing. What did they have? What could they use? The training facility was not a military base. They had tools, vehicles, construction equipment. They had emergency supplies. They had mining gear for teaching geological surveys. Could they weaponize any of it? Maya reached the storage building and opened the large doors. Inside, she saw everything they had used for training over the years. Bulldozers, drilling machines, portable generators, communication satellites, surveying equipment. Her military training kicked in. She started thinking tactically. They could not build a traditional defense. But maybe they did not need to. Maybe they could improvise something. Something unexpected. The first cadets started arriving. They were breathing hard from running. Their faces showed fear but also determination. A young man named Jericho Wells reached her first. He was from a farming colony, always good with machines. Instructor, what do we do? Maya looked at him, then at the other cadets gathering around her. More were arriving every minute. She saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw something else. Trust. They trusted her to lead them. We are going to do something impossible, Maya said. We are going to build a planetary defense system in 1 hour. The cadets stared at her. Some looked confused. Others looked like she had lost her mind. I know how it sounds, Maya continued. But we have no choice. Help is not coming. Running will not save us. Our only option is to fight. And to fight, we need weapons. She pointed at the equipment around them. Everything you see here can be used. Drilling machines can become railguns. Generators can power energy weapons. Communication satellites can become sensor networks. We just need to be creative. Jericho looked at the equipment, then back at Maya. Slowly he nodded. It is like fixing a broken tractor. You use whatever parts you have. Maya smiled grimly. Exactly. Now let us get to work. We have 55 minutes left. Maya stood in the center of the base camp as cadets gathered around her. 47 young faces looked at her, waiting for orders. She pulled up a holographic map of the facility on her tablet and projected it in the air. Listen up, Maya said, her voice calm and firm. We have 53 minutes now. I am dividing you into 4 teams. Engineering team will modify heavy equipment into weapons. Fabrication team will build power systems and ammunition. Sensor team will create an early warning network. Combat coordination team will manage targeting and communications. She pointed at different cadets as she spoke. Jericho, you lead engineering. Take anyone who knows machines. Tyler, you handle fabrication with the technicians. Sophie, you have sensor networks. Carl, you coordinate combat operations with me. The cadets nodded. They were scared, but they were moving. Maya had trained them for emergencies, just not emergencies like this. Remember your Deathworlder training, Maya added. We improvise. We adapt. We use what we have. Now move. The teams scattered in different directions. Maya watched them go, hoping this crazy plan would work. Up in orbit, Commander Thrace sat in his command chair. His eyes were fixed on the sensor displays. Something strange was happening on the planet below. Commander, Krell said, his voice uncertain. The humans are not evacuating. Thrace leaned forward. What do you mean? They are not fleeing. Look at the sensor data. They are moving in organized patterns, spreading out across the facility in deliberate formations. Thrace studied the display. Krell was right. The humans were not running away. They were not hiding. They were moving with purpose in coordinated groups. It made no sense. What are they doing? Thrace asked. Unknown, Commander. But there is significant activity near their equipment storage areas. Multiple power signatures are activating. Thrace felt a small flutter of unease. He pushed it away. They were cadets. Students. What could they possibly accomplish in less than an hour? Down on the surface, Jericho Wells ran toward the mining section of the storage facility. 6 other cadets followed him. They were all from colony worlds, places where people learned to fix things because help was always far away. Okay, Jericho said, looking at the heavy mining drill in front of him. We need to turn this into a weapon. Tyler, what is a railgun? A young woman named Tyler Chin, part of the fabrication team working nearby, shouted back. It uses magnetic force to shoot metal projectiles at high speed. Needs lots of power and a long barrel. Jericho looked at the mining drill. It had a long shaft for drilling deep into rock. It had powerful motors. It had metal components they could use as projectiles. "This is basically a railgun already," Jericho said. "We just need to reverse the power flow and add magnetic coils." Another cadet named Luke stared at him. "How do you know this will work?" "I do not," Jericho admitted. "But back home we modified farming equipment all the time. One year I turned a grain auger into a water pump. Same principle. You just change what goes in and what comes out." He grabbed a tool kit and started opening the drill's control panel. His hands moved fast, disconnecting wires and rerouting power systems. The other cadets watched for a moment, then started helping. Across the camp, Sophie Martinez led her sensor team to the communications tower. They had 6 small satellites scheduled for launch next month as part of their training. The satellites were designed to study weather patterns. "Can we reprogram these?" Sophie asked her team. A cadet named Rachel nodded. "I think so. They have radar systems for tracking storms. We could modify the software to track ships instead." "Do it," Sophie said. "We need them in orbit in 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Rachel looked panicked. "The standard launch procedure takes 3 hours. Sophie was already climbing the tower's ladder. "Then we skip the standard procedure. Get the launch pad ready. I will handle the programming." At the main operations center, Alan worked frantically at the primary defense console. Maya had told him to get something working. Anything. But the system had been completely disassembled for upgrades. Critical components were scattered across multiple rooms. Tyler Chin burst through the door with 2 other cadets. They were carrying a large atmospheric processor. "Where do you want this?" Tyler asked. Alan looked confused. "That is for making breathable air." "Why did you bring it here?" "Because it generates power," Tyler said. "Lots of power. Sophie said you need power for the defense grid. So we brought you power." Alan's eyes widened. The atmospheric processor used fusion reactions to clean and energize air. It was not designed as a power generator, but the principle was similar. If they could reroute its output? "Put it there," Alan pointed. "Connect it to the main grid. Use the heavy cables from the storage room." The cadets got to work. Alan turned back to his console and continued rebuilding the defense system one piece at a time. Commander Thrace watched the activity increase on his sensors. Power readings were spiking across the human facility. Structures were being moved. Equipment was being activated in unusual patterns. "Tactical analysis," Thrace ordered. Krell worked at his console for a moment. "Commander, it appears the humans are attempting to construct defensive positions. But their approach is chaotic. They are using equipment not designed for military purposes. Mining tools, industrial processors, communication devices." "Estimated threat level?" Thrace asked. "Minimal, Commander. Even if they succeed in mounting some resistance, it will be disorganized and ineffective. We will overwhelm them easily." But Thrace was not convinced. He had fought many species across the galaxy. Most of them reacted to surprise attacks in predictable ways. They either fled or they hid or they called for help and waited. The humans were doing none of these things. They were building something. Jericho stepped back from the mining drill. It looked different now. The drilling shaft pointed upward at a 45-degree angle. Magnetic coils wrapped around it, taken from 3 different machines. Power cables ran from it to a portable generator. "Test it," Jericho said. Luke activated the power. The magnetic coils hummed. The drill shaft vibrated. Jericho loaded a metal rod into the shaft, about 1 meter long and thick as his thumb. "Firing," Luke said. He pressed the activation button. The magnetic coils flared. The metal rod shot out of the shaft so fast it disappeared. A moment later they heard it impact a hillside 2 kilometers away. The sound echoed across the valley. Everyone stared. "It works," Jericho said quietly. Then louder, "It works. Okay, we need 5 more of these. Move." All across the facility similar scenes played out. The fabrication team successfully converted 2 atmospheric processors into power generators. The sensor team launched 4 satellites into low orbit using modified cargo rockets. The combat coordination team established communication links between all positions. Maya walked between the teams checking progress. There was chaos. Nothing was standard. Nothing followed regulations. But it was working. She checked her tablet. 28 minutes remaining. "Faster," she called out. "We need everything operational in 25 minutes. Up in orbit, Thrace stood from his command chair. The sensor readings made no sense. The humans were accomplishing something that should be impossible. In 32 minutes they had built weapons platforms, powered them up, and establish some kind of sensor network. Analysis update, Thrace demanded. Krell's voice was uncertain now. Commander, the human defensive positions are becoming operational. They have at least 6 weapon emplacements, a functional power grid, and active sensor coverage. This should not be possible in such a short time. Thrace felt the unease growing stronger. Estimated completion time for their defenses? At current pace, 25 minutes, Commander. That would give the humans 5 minutes before the fleet arrived. Thrace calculated quickly. 5 minutes was not enough time to test systems, coordinate firing solutions, establish proper defensive protocols. The humans would have equipment but no organization. They would still lose. But doubt not at him. These were cadets. Students. And they had accomplished more in 35 minutes than most species could manage in a day. What would they accomplish in the next 25 minutes? The sun beat down on Nova Terrace with harsh intensity. The temperature had climbed to 42 degrees Celsius. The planet's gravity was 15% higher than standard galactic norm. Most species would have slowed down by now, their bodies struggling against the heat and weight. The human cadets barely noticed. Jericho wiped sweat from his forehead and kept working. He and his team were installing the 7th railgun on a ridge overlooking the valley. The metal components were heavy. Each magnetic coil weighed 30 kilograms. In this gravity it felt like 40. But Jericho had grown up on a farming colony with even higher gravity. This felt normal to him. "Luke, hand me the power coupling," Jericho called out. Luke jogged over with the equipment. He was not even breathing hard. The heat, the gravity, the physical labor, none of it slowed him down. His body had been shaped by millions of years of evolution on Earth, where survival meant endurance. Up in orbit, Krell watched his sensors with growing confusion. "Commander, the humans have been working continuously for 40 minutes. No rest periods. No slowdown in activity. How are they maintaining this pace?" Thrace studied the data. Krell was right. The work output from the surface should be impossible. The planet's environmental conditions were harsh. The physical demands were extreme. Yet the humans showed no signs of fatigue. "What is the surface temperature?" Thrace asked. 42 degrees, Commander. And climbing. Thrace felt a chill despite the controlled climate of his bridge. 42 degrees would be dangerous for most Vexians. They would need cooling suits and frequent rest breaks. But the humans just kept working. "Check the gravity," Thrace ordered. 1.15 standard, Commander. Another factor that should be slowing them down. But was not. Down on the surface, Sophie climbed the communications tower for the 3rd time. Her muscles ached but she pushed through it. She was from Earth's mountains, where thin air and steep climbs were part of daily life. This tower was actually easier than her morning runs back home. She reached the top and connected the final satellite relay. "Rachel, test the link." Rachel's voice came through her earpiece immediately. "Connection established. All 6 satellites are talking to each other. We have full orbital coverage." Sophie allowed herself a small smile. They had just built a sensor network in 45 minutes. The training manual said it should take a week. "Send the data to combat coordination," Sophie said. "Carl needs to see what we can see." She climbed down the tower, her hands moving quickly on the ladder. Below she could see other teams working. The fabrication team was installing power cables. The engineering team was positioning weapons. Everyone moved with purpose, without hesitation. Commander Thrace listened as Krell provided another update. "Commander, I am detecting a functional sensor network. The humans have launched satellites and established orbit coverage. They are now tracking our fleet." "That is impossible," Thrace said. "Sensor networks require precise calculations, orbital mechanics, synchronized communications. That takes days of preparation." "Nevertheless, Commander, they have done it. And they did it in 45 minutes. Thrace looked at his command staff. He saw confusion on their faces. Doubt. These humans were not following any logical pattern. They were not following standard procedures. They were just doing whatever worked. On the surface, Carl set up the Combat Coordination Center inside the main building. Screens surrounded him, showing feeds from all the weapons, all the sensors, all the teams. It looked chaotic. Different systems, different interfaces, nothing standardized. But Carl could see the pattern. Each team was solving their own problems and sharing solutions instantly. When Jericho's team figured out how to aim the railguns, they broadcast the technique. Sophie's sensor team immediately integrated that data into their targeting system. Tyler's fabrication team started building more of whatever worked. It was not chaos. It was distributed problem solving. Every cadet was a node in a network, thinking independently but sharing knowledge collectively. Maya walked through the facility, checking each position. She saw Tyler's team connecting their 4th power generator. She saw Jericho's team finishing the 8th railgun. She saw Sophie's sensor arrays going active one by one. She also saw the exhaustion on their faces. The sweat. The trembling muscles. But no one stopped. No one complained. They were human. Humans did not stop when things got hard. They pushed through. Maya remembered her own training on Earth. The desert marches. The mountain climbs. The ocean swims. Instructors pushing them beyond what seemed possible. But that was the point. Humans had evolved to endure. Their bodies were built for persistence, for continuing long after other species would collapse. She checked her tablet. 15 minutes remaining. Status report. Maya called over the command channel. The responses came quickly. Engineering team, 8 railguns operational, working on number 9. Fabrication team, 4 power generators online, 5th one connecting now. Sensor team, full orbital coverage active, tracking the incoming fleet. Combat coordination, all systems integrated, firing solutions ready. Maya felt something rising in her chest. Pride. They were going to do it. These young people, these students, were accomplishing the impossible. Commander Thrace paced his bridge. The sensor data made less sense with each passing minute. The humans now had 9 weapon platforms. 4 independent power generators. Complete sensor coverage. Integrated communications. All built from mining equipment and industrial tools. How long would it take our engineers to build something like this? Thrace asked. Krell consulted his database. Using proper military equipment and following standard protocols. Approximately 4 days, Commander. With preparation and planning, perhaps 3. They did it in 45 minutes. Yes, Commander. Thrace stopped pacing. He looked at the planet on his display. He thought about his invasion plan. The High Council wanted proof that humans were weak. That they would break under pressure. That conquering their space would be easy. But what Thrace was seeing was not weakness. It was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Jericho finished installing the 9th railgun and stood back. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His arms trembled from lifting heavy components. But the weapon was ready. He tested the aiming system, the power flow, the firing mechanism. Everything worked. He looked around at his team. They were all exhausted. Luke was leaning against a rock, breathing hard. Rachel sat on the ground, her legs finally giving out. But they had done it. Take a minute, Jericho said. Drink some water. Then we need to build 2 more. No one argued. They drank water, rested for 60 seconds, then got back to work. Tyler connected the 5th power generator to the main grid. The system hummed to life, energy flowing through cables to weapons and sensors across the facility. She checked the output levels. They were running at 70% efficiency. Not perfect but enough. She thought about her training. Her instructors had taught her that perfection was the enemy of completion. Better to have something working now than something perfect later. In survival situations, speed mattered more than elegance. This was definitely a survival situation. Sophie watched her screens as the satellites tracked the approaching fleet. The Vexian ships were still cloaked, but the sensor network could detect their gravity signatures, their engine heat, their mass displacement. She fed all this data to Carl's combat coordination system. Carl, you have targeting solutions, Sophie reported. Confirmed, Carl replied. All weapons can now track the fleet. When they drop from hyperspace, we will know exactly where they are. Maya stood at the command center with Carl, watching the countdown timer. 10 minutes remaining. She looked at the status board. 11 railguns operational. 5 power generators online. Full sensor coverage. Communication network active. Defensive positions manned. They had built a planetary defense system in 50 minutes. It was crude. It was improvised. It violated every military regulation she had ever learned. But it was functional. Commander Thrace watched the final minutes count down. His fleet was ready. Weapons charged. Shields activated. But his confidence had vanished. These humans had done something that should have been impossible. They had worked without rest in brutal conditions. They had built military equipment from civilian tools. They had coordinated dozens of teams without centralized control. If cadets could do this, what could actual human soldiers accomplish? Commander, Krell said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider this attack. Thrace did not answer. He was thinking. Calculating. The High Council wanted proof of human weakness. But what if the proof showed the opposite? What if humans were not weak at all? Maya stood in the command center and watched the countdown timer hit 5 minutes. Around her, screens showed every weapon, every sensor, every power system. All of them displayed green status indicators. Everything was ready. All teams, final status check, Maya said into her communicator. Jericho's voice came first. Engineering team, 11 railguns operational and aimed at probable drop points. Ammunition loaded. Power connection stable. Tyler responded next. Fabrication team, 5 generators running at full capacity. Backup systems ready. We can maintain fire for at least 30 minutes continuous. Sophie's report followed. Sensor team, all satellites tracking the fleet. We have their exact position, speed, and trajectory. When they drop from hyperspace, we will see them immediately. Carl finished the reports. Combat coordination, all weapons linked to tracking system. Firing solutions calculated and ready. We can engage the moment they appear. Maya took a deep breath. 55 minutes ago they had nothing. Now they had a functional planetary defense system. Was not pretty. It would never pass a military inspection. But it worked. Good job everyone, Maya said. Now we wait. Up in orbit, Commander Thrace watched the same countdown. 5 minutes until his fleet dropped from hyperspace. 5 minutes until the attack began. But something felt wrong. The humans were too calm, too organized. Krell, Thrace said. Launch a probe. I want to test their defenses before we commit the fleet. Krell's mandibles clicked nervously. Commander, that will reveal our position. They already know our position, Thrace said, pointing at the sensor data. Their satellites are tracking us. Launch the probe. Krell obeyed. A small probe detached from the flagship and accelerated toward the planet. It was unmanned, expendable, designed for reconnaissance. It dropped out of cloak as it entered the atmosphere, appearing on every sensor. Sophie saw it first. Contact. Single probe entering atmosphere. Probable scout vessel. I see it, Carl said, his fingers moving across his controls. Targeting now. On the ridge, Jericho's team received the alert. Their railgun automatically adjusted its aim, tracking the probe as it descended. The magnetic coils powered up. Across the facility, 2 more weapons locked onto the same target. One was a modified industrial laser, originally used for cutting rock. Another was a plasma cutter that Tyler's team had turned into a directed energy weapon. Carl watched all 3 weapons acquire the target. We have lock. 3 systems tracking. Permission to fire? Maya did not hesitate. Fire. 3 different weapons fired simultaneously. Jericho's railgun launched a metal rod at hypersonic speed. The industrial laser sent a focused beam of coherent light. The plasma cutter released a burst of superheated particles. The probe never had a chance. The railgun projectile hit it first, punching through its hull. The laser burned through its engines a microsecond later. The plasma burst vaporized what remained. The entire engagement lasted less than 2 seconds. On the Vexian flagship, Krell stared at his console in shock. Commander, the probe is destroyed. I saw, Thrace said quietly. Show me the replay. The tactical display recreated the engagement. 3 weapons, 3 different technologies, firing in perfect coordination. The probe had been eliminated before it could even begin evasive maneuvers. Analysis, Thrace ordered. Krell worked his console. Commander, the humans used 3 distinct weapon systems. 1 kinetic, 1 energy-based, 1 plasma. All 3 hit the target within 2 seconds. Coordination was perfect. Response time was instantaneous. Thrace felt something cold settle in his chest. These were not desperate survivors making lucky shots. This was a coordinated defense system with multiple redundancies and integrated targeting. Estimated defensive capability? Thrace asked. Krell hesitated. Commander, based on sensor readings, they have at least 11 weapon platforms of various types. All connected to a central tracking system. All powered and ready. If they can coordinate fire like this against multiple targets. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Thrace understood. The humans could engage his entire fleet simultaneously. They would not win. His ships had shields and armor the makeshift weapons could not penetrate easily. But the humans would inflict damage. They would make him pay for every meter of ground. And these were cadets. Students. Maya watched the probe's debris fall from the sky. She felt a grim satisfaction. The test had worked perfectly. Now the Vexians knew exactly what they faced. She opened a communication channel, broadcasting on all frequencies. She knew the Vexians were listening. Attention Vexian fleet, Maya said, her voice calm and professional. "This is Cadet Instructor Maya Flores of Nova Terrace Training Facility. Your probe has been destroyed. Consider this a demonstration of our defensive capabilities." She paused, letting that sink in. "I want to be clear about something," Maya continued. "What you just witnessed was not luck. It was not desperation. It was the result of 1 hour of work by 47 students. Not soldiers. Not veterans. Students." On the Vexian bridge, every officer listened to the transmission. Thrace stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the communication display. Maya's voice continued. "You came here expecting an easy target. You thought young humans would panic and flee. You were wrong. We do not flee. We do not panic. We adapt. We build. We fight." She smiled, though the Vexians could not see it. "So here is my invitation, Commander. Please proceed with your attack. Come test our defenses. Let my students show you their final exam scores. I am confident they will pass." The transmission ended. Silence filled the Vexian bridge. No one moved. No one spoke. They all understood what had just happened. The human instructor was not begging for mercy. She was not asking them to leave. She was challenging them, daring them to attack. Krell finally broke the silence. "Commander, she is bluffing. She must be. They cannot actually stop our fleet." Thrace did not respond immediately. He thought about everything he had witnessed in the past hour. The impossible construction speed. The relentless work pace. The creative problem-solving. The perfect coordination. He thought about the probe, destroyed in 2 seconds by 3 different weapons working together. He thought about Maya's voice, calm and confident, inviting him to attack. These were not the actions of someone bluffing. These were the actions of someone who believed they could win. "Krell," Thrace said slowly, "if these cadets built this defense in 1 hour, what could actual human military forces build in 1 day? 1 week?" Krell opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. He had no answer. Thrace looked around his bridge at his officers. He saw doubt on every face. They had all heard the confidence in the human instructor's voice. They had all seen what the cadets accomplished. "Pull up our intelligence files on human military capabilities," Thrace ordered. "Everything we know about their soldiers, their tactics, their technology." Krell brought up the data. Thrace read through it with new eyes. Humans had been in the galaxy for 50 years. They were considered a minor power. Adequate technology, small fleet, limited territory. But now Thrace saw something else in the reports. References to human persistence. Notes about their unusual endurance. Observations that humans do not follow standard tactical doctrine. He had read these reports before and dismissed them. Now he understood what they really meant. Humans did not think like other species. They did not follow rules. They did not wait for perfect solutions. They improvised. They adapted. They made the impossible happen through sheer determination. And if cadets could do what he just witnessed, then human soldiers were far more dangerous than anyone in the Dominion realized. "Commander," Krell said quietly, "we have 3 minutes until scheduled attack. What are your orders?" Thrace looked at the planet on his display. He thought about the High Council waiting for proof of human weakness. He thought about the invasion plans that assumed humans would be easy to conquer. Those plans were based on incorrect assumptions. The humans were not weak. They were something the galaxy had never encountered before. A species that got stronger under pressure. That accomplished more when things got worse. Attacking this facility would prove nothing except that the Dominion had underestimated humanity. Badly. "Krell," Thrace said, "send a message to the High Council. Tell them we need to completely reassess our intelligence on human capabilities. Tell them the invasion plans are based on faulty data." "Commander, what about the attack?" Thrace made his decision. "Cancel the attack. We are withdrawing." Commander Thrace stood in the war room of his flagship, surrounded by his senior officers. The large table between them displayed a holographic map of human space. Red markers indicated human colonies, military bases, and trade routes. Blue markers showed Vexian assets and planned invasion corridors. The invasion plan had looked simple on paper. Overwhelming force. Rapid strikes. Psychological warfare. The humans would crumble within weeks. But now, staring at that map, Thrace saw something different. Every red marker was not a target anymore. It was a potential threat. "Let me make sure I understand correctly," Thrace said to his assembled staff. 47 cadets, not soldiers but students in training, built a functional planetary defense system in under 1 hour. His tactical officer Krell nodded. "Yes, Commander. using only civilian equipment. Mining tools, industrial processors, communication satellites. Nothing military grade. And they destroyed our probe with perfect coordination, Thrace continued. 3 different weapon systems, 3 different technologies, firing simultaneously with exact timing. Correct, Commander. Thrace walked around the table, studying each face. Now answer me this. If students can accomplish that in 1 hour, what can trained human soldiers accomplish? Silence filled the room. Finally, the fleet's strategic advisor, an older Vexian named Drex, spoke. Commander, I have been reviewing our intelligence reports on human military forces. We have consistently underestimated them. Explain, Thrace ordered. Drex pulled up files on the holographic display. We observed that humans do not follow standard military doctrine. We interpreted this as primitive thinking, lack of sophistication. But I now believe we were wrong. He showed footage from various encounters. Human ships making maneuvers that seemed reckless but worked. Human soldiers using tactics that violated every rule of engagement but achieved victory. Human colonies surviving in conditions that should have been uninhabitable. We called it stubbornness, Drex said. We called it luck. We called it primitive persistence. But it is not any of those things. It is adaptability. Pure, terrifying adaptability. Another officer, the weapons specialist Vorn, added her analysis. Commander, I have been calculating what we just witnessed. Those cadets repurposed a mining drill into a railgun. That should be impossible without weeks of engineering work. They converted atmospheric processors into power generators. Again, impossible without extensive modifications and testing. But they did it, Thrace said. Yes. In minutes, not weeks. They did not calculate perfect solutions. They calculated good enough solutions and implemented them immediately. No committee meetings. No approval processes. No testing protocols. Just rapid execution. Thrace felt the weight of understanding settling on him. The Dominion's military operated on careful planning. Every attack was calculated. Every maneuver was practiced. Every scenario was analyzed. The humans just did things and figured out the problems as they went. In a long war, careful planning won. But in a crisis, adaptability won. And the humans were masters of crisis. Pull up our invasion projections, Thrace ordered. The holographic map changed, showing the planned attack routes into human space. The strategy was simple. Hit 3 border colonies simultaneously, overwhelm their defenses, establish forward bases, then push deeper into human territory. Thrace pointed at the first target colony. We estimated this colony would fall in 6 hours. That estimate assumed standard defenses, standard response times, standard military procedures. But what if the humans do not respond in standard ways? Krell worked his console, running new calculations. If human forces can build defenses at the same rate as those cadets, Commander, our entire timeline becomes meaningless. They could fortify positions faster than we can attack them. Run the simulation again, Thrace ordered. Assume humans can construct defensive positions at 10 times our estimated speed. Assume they can improvise weapons from civilian equipment. Assume perfect coordination without centralized command. The computer calculated for several seconds. The results appeared on the display. The invasion failed. Every scenario showed Vexian forces becoming trapped in prolonged engagements, taking heavy casualties, losing the initiative. The humans would not fight conventional battles. They would improvise, adapt, turn every piece of infrastructure into a weapon. This is just a simulation, Vorn said quietly. We do not know if all human forces are like those cadets. Can we afford to assume they are not? Thrace asked. Can we risk our entire fleet on the hope that those cadets were exceptional? No one answered. Thrace made his decision. Send orders to all ships. We are withdrawing from human space. Set course for home. Commander, Krell protested. The High Council ordered this attack. They expect results. Then they will get results, Thrace said firmly. They will get the truth. Humans are not the easy conquest we believed. They are something far more dangerous. He began composing his official report to the High Council. His hands moved across the console, choosing each word carefully. Engagement with human forces at Nova Terrace has revealed critical flaws in our intelligence assessments. Human adaptability under pressure exceeds all previous estimates. Recommend immediate suspension of invasion plans pending complete strategic reassessment. Classify human space as indefinite strategic deterrent. Recommend extreme caution in all future interactions. He paused, then added one final line. The greatest mistake we could make is underestimating human capabilities. We have seen what their students can accomplish in 1 hour. We should not discover what their armies can accomplish in 1 day. Thrace transmitted the report and gave the order. The 12 Vexian warships turned away from Nova Terrace and jumped to hyperspace, leaving the human colony untouched. Down on the surface, Maya watched the sensor displays as the Vexian fleet disappeared from tracking. Sophie's voice came over the communicator, excited and confused. "Instructor Flores, they are leaving. The entire fleet just jumped away." Maya felt the tension drain from her body. She had projected confidence during that transmission, but inside she had been terrified. Their defenses were good, but against 12 warships, they would have lasted minutes, not hours. "Stand down all weapons," Maya ordered. "Keep sensors active for the next 6 hours, but I think they are really gone." She walked outside the command center. Across the facility, cadets were emerging from their positions. They looked exhausted, covered in sweat and dirt, but alive. 47 young people who had just accomplished something incredible. Jericho approached her, his face tired but smiling. "Did we just win?" "You just passed your final exam," Maya said. "All of you." Over the next hour, the cadets dismantled their improvised defenses. The railguns were converted back into mining drills. The power generators returned to their normal functions. The satellites were reprogrammed for weather monitoring. Maya supervised the cleanup, but her mind was already on the after-action report she would need to write. How did she explain what happened? How did she describe the fact that her students had stopped an alien invasion? She sat down at her desk and began typing. After-action report, emergency response training exercise, Nova Terrace facility. She described the automated warning system, the rapid response, the equipment modifications. She documented each team's performance, noting their creativity, endurance, and coordination. What she did not mention was that the threat had been real. She did not mention the Vexian fleet or the probe they destroyed. As far as her report indicated, this had been an elaborate drill. A test of the cadets' ability to respond to emergencies. All 47 cadets demonstrated exceptional performance under pressure, Maya wrote. They successfully constructed defensive positions, integrated multiple systems, and maintained operational readiness throughout the exercise. Recommend all cadets pass this training module with honors. She finished the report and transmitted it to the Academy's main headquarters. They would receive it and file it away, just another successful training exercise. The cadets would tell stories, of course. They would talk about the day they stopped an invasion. But without official confirmation, those stories would become legends. Exaggerations. The kind of tales all soldiers tell. Only Maya and the Vexians would know the truth. She looked up at the sky, now clear and peaceful. Somewhere out there, Commander Thrace was reporting to his High Council. He was explaining that humans were not what they seemed. That the invasion plans were based on false assumptions. Maya wondered if the Vexians would listen. She wondered if other species would learn the same lesson. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced. But they adapted. They persisted. They found solutions where others saw only problems. That night, Maya gathered all the cadets for a final meeting. They sat around a fire, eating rations and sharing stories about the day's events. They laughed about Jericho's improvised railgun. They joked about Sophie climbing the tower 3 times. They celebrated Tyler's power generators that actually worked. "Instructor," Carl asked, "do you think they will come back? The Vexians?" Maya looked at the stars above. "I don't know. Maybe. But if they do, they will come prepared. They won't underestimate us again." "Good," Jericho said. "Let them come prepared. We will just adapt faster." The other cadets laughed and agreed. Maya smiled, but inside she felt proud. These young people had faced impossible odds and won through creativity and determination. They were human. And being human meant never giving up, no matter how bad things looked. Several light years away, the Vexian High Council read Thrace's report. They debated. They argued. Some wanted to proceed with the invasion anyway. Others urged caution. In the end, caution won. The invasion was postponed indefinitely. Human space was marked with warning flags in every Vexian military database. One species had learned an important lesson. Humans were not prey. They were not easy targets. They were survivors, adapters, builders, and they were dangerous precisely because they refused to accept that anything was impossible.